one thing that always has stuck with me is if you try to make your money in the short term, you know, they won't carry over to the long term. They always said if you just take care of people's financial needs or whatever kind of needs they may have, if what works best for them, it makes the most sense for them, you will make your money in that relationship in the long term.
Matt Woolley Podcast.
Our guest today is the one and only Donnie Baker. So, Donnie, thank you for being here.
Hey, thanks for having me, Matt.
So who is Donnie Baker? Donnie, you know the routine here. So Donnie Baker is a husband, a father, and a Christian. Donnie's past experiences include a John Brown University graduate, Arvest Loan Review from 1998 to 2004. He's been a Bethany Christian Services board member. He's been a board member for the Bentonville Rotary Club, the Youth Services Chair. Donnie's also been a John Brown University Advisory Board member. Donnie is currently the Northwest Arkansas Community College Foundation Board Treasurer, and his current occupation is Senior Vice President, Senior Lender at First Security Bank, serving with First Security for over 20 years, focusing on commercial, municipal, and church lending in Northwest Arkansas. That's quite the resume, Donnie.
You know, I've been very, it's been a great experience so far in my life. I've been given a lot of opportunities and to serve and to work for a great company. And not a lot of guys in my business stay somewhere for 20 years.
No, they don't.
In banking and so forth. But,
that's where I met you.
That's right.
That's where I met you. In 2000, in my past life as a banker, I think it was 2005. 2005 or 6.
So we're in that area. We're both in Fayetteville at the same time.
Yeah, man, that's crazy.
So
it's crazy. I have a lot of fond memories with you. I was just telling this story. We'll get into something else in a minute, but this just popped in my head. I was telling a story about you. So one of my associates was asking me this morning. They knew that we were doing this podcast together, and they know who you are. And so they said, how do you actually know Donnie? I was like, well, we were in banking together many years ago, and we've remained friends since. But here's what I remember about Donnie. Donnie was always working. It didn't matter what he was doing. So here's a funny story. And I said, how do I summarize Donnie? I remember there's a handful of times that we all be congregated at the at the Joyce branch, right? And everybody would be him-hawing around, just kind of water cooler talking like in a circle or something like that. And you'd always be a couple of minutes late to the water cooler party. You'd get in the know, but always with you. You always had a manila folder, and you're always multitasking. You'd be in the conversation, but doing your thing, you know what I mean? And I think anybody that knows you could say that you're a hard, dedicated worker. So, that's what I tell people. I was like, Donnie's a hard worker.
Well, I appreciate that.
Yeah.
I take a lot of pride in that, and that's the way I was raised.
Right.
Yeah, I was raised to work, and we're also commanded by God to work.
Yeah, work is working to the Lord. Yeah.
That's exactly right.
Yeah,
that's exactly right.
So, where did Donnie get his start? Where's Donnie from?
You bet. Hey, we'll go back to the very beginning. So, I was actually born in Slidell, Louisiana.
Okay.
Which is right across Lake Pontchartrain from New Orleans.
Oh. Okay.
So, lived there till I was in third grade. Mm-hmm. And Mom and Dad, this would have been in 1987. Mm-hmm. I remember my parents very clearly sitting me down and saying, hey, we got some news for you. Your dad's been given an opportunity. He's been recruited somewhat to move to Bentonville, Arkansas. Mm-hmm. When you're in third grade in 1987 and you live in New Orleans and your parents say you're moving to Arkansas, the first thing you say is, where's that? We're moving where? You're trying to explain to your friends why you're moving, where you're moving, and they're all looking at you the same way going, where's Arkansas?
Yeah, where's that at? Is that on the map somewhere?
Exactly. Yeah, it's directly north of us, believe it or not. So we moved up here when I was in third grade in 1987 to Bentonville, and have lived in Northwest Arkansas ever since.
So your I mean, so technically you're barely a transplant, but for the most part, you're pretty much rooted here.
You talk to anybody, they say, "Oh, you're a native," and I say, "Yeah, I am.
pretty
Now.
much.
I have been for a while, and I'm proud of that."
Yeah, that's it. I mean, in a news count. I mean, how old were you? Say so.
I was 8.
8. Yes. I mean, you've been here for a minute, so you've seen, just like many others in this area that have been here for a long time, you've seen quite a few changes.
I like to tell a couple stories. That one, I'm pretty sure Bentonville was under 9,000 people when we moved here.
Wowzers.
Bella Vista was about 2,500.
Wow.
I make the joke to people now that I never thought I would be the one that drives around saying, "I remember when that was so-and-so's place," or "that was that." The area, I've had the experience to watch the area just grow so much and prosper so much, and all the changes that have occurred over time, and to get to see the way this area has transformed over the 37 years I've lived here now has just been amazing.
Wow. Yeah, absolutely. So let's go back. What prompted your dad got an opportunity, and so he came up here to work, obviously, and so growing up, put us in the space of Donnie Baker's head, moving. So you're Louisiana boy, transitioned to be an Arkansas boy. Where was your headspace at the time? What was it like moving to Bentonville as a young man around that time?
It was different from moving somewhere that was a bigger area to something that's really a small town.
Right.
Dad's opportunity was, when we moved here, I'm pretty sure there was 5 families that lived on our street in North Bentonville whose parents didn't work for Walmart. And my dad was one. We were one of the ones. Everybody else on the street, family worked for Walmart besides me and a few others. And it was just interesting to be that I was always like, not on the outside looking in, but it was unique that everybody else was sort of part of that world, and I was one of the few whose family wasn't. Now, Dad worked for a group that helped become the asset management division of Arvest.
Is that right?
Yeah. So it was a company that was owned by Walnut Enterprises. They were starting to get into the financial services, like in terms of like estate, tax, financial planning business. So
that's what your dad did?
That's what my dad is.
I didn't know that. So it's in the blood.
Yeah. So so my dad turned 80 in May. Still just, mom and dad are doing great.
Fantastic.
So Dad has been in that business for, I'm going to say probably at this point, 45 years.
Wow.
And is still sort of semi-retired doing it.
That's awesome.
Doing some consulting type work and so forth. But so it's banking or finance has always been my family. My sister's a CPA with a master's in tax. She helps run a family office for a family in Baton Rouge, Louisiana.
Awesome.
So it has always sort of run in our family, the financial aspect. But between my dad and my sister and I, we do different things.
Did that set the course for you? Did you know that you wanted to do, or did you fall into?
I always, my whole life, until probably near the end of college, thought I was going to be an attorney. I was going to go to law school.
Is that right?
Yep. I thought I was going to go to law school, be an attorney, and I went to JBU for 4 years, lived in Siloam Springs on campus there. Became immersed in.
What was that like?
Siloam or JBU?
Both.
Great experiences.
Okay.
Siloam is a really neat community.
I would agree.
People that have never experienced it or been over there or gotten to know people there, Siloam's a great town. And Siloam is a great town that has a whole lot to offer that people don't realize what all businesses are located there and how vibrant the economy is in Siloam. JBU was a very good experience. Being a smaller school, my wife and I are sort of the opposite. I went to public school my whole life and then went to a private university. She went to private school her whole life and went to public university. So we sort of make the joke that we're sort of the opposite.
Yeah.
JBU was very challenging. I can definitely say that I got a very good academic education at John Brown University. They did a phenomenal job. I'm still a huge proponent of theirs. I still promote them, but I felt like they equipped me very well for my career. And I got near the end of a very challenging school. And at the end of 4 years there, I just said, okay, I'm not sure if I could go do law school now next. And at that time, I was working at Arvest during my summers and my Christmas breaks, doing some just different things, which is an interesting way of how I sort of got to where I am today. I was doing some sort of back office clerical type stuff part-time, during my breaks when I was at JVU. And then the special assets director or officer got to know me. And the special assets guy is the guy who does the repossessions. He handles bankruptcies. He does foreclosures.
All the fun stuff.
Yeah, exactly. And I got to know him. He said, look, I could really use some help. When you're here, would you be interested? He talked to whoever he needed to talk to. So my second summer there, I went to go work with him.
Oh, wow.
And that taught me a lot about what not to do. And okay, if this is what the cleanup process of a bad decision could look like. It really taught me a lot. So in working there for multiple years, the whole time I was in college, I had the opportunity to go full time there when I got out of school. They didn't have room for me in the loan department, so I was a call center rep for about 6 months. Which was
that's another experience.
Oh, absolutely. And I learned a lot about what we call the deposit/retail side of the bank. I learned a lot about that in that process. And then I had an opportunity to post out and go be what they call a commercial loan assistant in their Springdale market. So I got to learn a lot of documentation. Of course, in my mind, I sort of have a little bit more of a legal background kind of mind due to the fact that I wanted to go to law school. I sort of think a little bit more technically like that in a lot of ways. So that was a good experience for me. And I had an opportunity to go be a credit analyst. Learn the underwriting piece, which I'm more of a numbers, analytics, detail kind of person. And then went to loan review, as you mentioned in my intro a little while ago, which is, someone in loan review, you look at all the files in the bank, loan files, so forth, and look for strengths and weaknesses and just make sure things are being maintained properly, look for any kind of risks that may have shown up, which really taught me a lot to go with the rest of my background. And then I remember very clearly, in some political things that unfortunately happened with Dad internally with Arvest at the time. And I was walking, it was on Walnut Street in Rutgers. There was, my boss and I at Loan Review at the time, we were walking to lunch at Chick-fil-A there on Walnut. And we got to walking, and we were just talking in general, and he said, we walked right by First Security's 2-story branch on Walnut. And he said, and they were newer to the market at the time. This would have been 2001 maybe, somewhere around there, 2001, 2002 type time. They'd only been in the market 3 or 4 years at the time. And he said, I've heard I've heard really good things about them. I've heard they're a good bank. For some reason, that just stuck with me. So things happen, definitely not going to get into it here. But one day I was at lunch. I said, you know what? I'm just going to see what else is out there. And I went to their website and just sent in an inquiry. I was 20, I was probably 24 or so at the time. Probably not 5-10 minutes later, Jim Taylor emailed me, and I think you.
I remember. I worked for him.
It said, hey, send me your resume. And I married. Probably a few weeks later, I was sitting on a plane in New Orleans going to visit my sister and brother-in-law, and I got a call from David Russell.
David Russell.
Yeah, and said, hey, we'd like to talk to you. And, one thing led to another. And I met with David. I ended up meeting with Jim. And it just I had a piece about it. This is what God wanted me to do. So I took the job with them as a lender. I had training, but had never done it before. Jim and David decided they were just, hey, they gave me an opportunity.
Give it a try,
And through that process, so Amy and I got back from our honeymoon on a a Saturday or a Sunday. I resigned at Arvest on Monday, started First Security the next day. So I like to tell people I literally started my life over all at the same time. I got married. I changed occupations. All at the same time. And June 29th was 20 years at First Security, and they have been very good to me and my family, and they provide me with great opportunities. The Rutledge family that owns First Security are just some of the best people you could ever work for and just be around in terms of just ethics and character and the way that they run their bank and they run their business. And that's one reason I'm still there 20 years later, is because of the opportunities and the kind of people that I work for.
Oh, 100%. Well, I tell people all the time, I worked for, a handful of banks early on in my career, and First Security was one of them. And, there's some good banks out there, but I will tell you, as far as culture leaders, they truly know what they're doing. And and the reason why they know what they're doing is because the culture's authentic. And, there's not many banks that, being a young banker especially, you get around some, just that's how it works, or at least it was with me. Maybe I'm just the only one, but you get around people that, higher rank, higher up. Everyone had a great humility there and still does. And I remember interviewing with David Russell too. Love David Russell. And David Russell, if you're listening, I still think you're an amazing guy. I've run into him several times since then, and he's always just the same authentic guy he was the day that I met him. Same thing with Adam. Adam's a great guy, and always, I got to work with him closely for, a little while. And when I met, Mr. Reaney too, there's not many, CEOs that would just get down in the trenches with you and, just talk to you like a normal person and make sure that they're involved, and make sure that they're present. When they're there, you have their attention. That's what I always felt like with First Security. Hands down, you just can't touch their culture as a bank. And I've always appreciated it. And I've always reflected on that too, as far as the other things that I've done later on in my life. I think, that's good leadership. So I can understand why you're there for 20 years. And, gee whiz, it's crazy to see the expansion First Security's done just in the past 10 years, let alone the past 20. It's pretty nuts.
It has been.
So tell us about some of the, we've transitioned into, your career path a little bit here. So what have been some of the challenges that you've seen, in the market with up here, you doing your thing?
In my 20-year career there, I've got to experience multiple, ups and downs in the economy.
Yeah, you're starting out at First Security, kind of like I did in banking, right into the recession.
Yeah. So, like I said, I went to go work for the bank in June of 2004. The Great Recession hit in 2008.
You could see some indicators coming, and then it just...
Our senior management had the great foresight to pull back early. They decided to say, okay, hey, let's pump the brakes on some things a little bit. Let's sort of see how some things play out. Let's slow down a little bit here with some of the indicators you were seeing out there, and they did a tremendous job of that. And I'm learning as I go here. I'm just trying to learn and listen and pay attention to what's going on. And so, recession hits in 2008, back in 2004, I was in our Fayetteville market, where you and I, as you said, that's where we met. And then for a couple of years, they moved me to the Springdale market, which was a good experience.
Were you working under Mike Moe?
No, it was Mike McFarland. Mike Warringballer and I worked together.
Oh, okay.
Mike McFarland was president of the Springdale market then.
Oh, it's McFarland. I'm getting
Mike
confused.
McFarland, yeah.
I'm getting confused.
And then John Rutledge was in Springdale at the time.
Yeah, that's right.
So I'll never forget this. This has been in May of 2008, Matt. Recession has started. And it was a Monday, and I got an email from Jim Taylor, who was over in Northwest Arkansas at the time. It said, hey, can you do lunch on tomorrow? I get this email. I'm like, okay, what's this about? I say, well, you know what? Usually they're not going to take you to lunch if they're going to fire you.
Right. They're gonna spend that money.
So that's what I said. I get. So the next day, he comes and picks me up, and our Benton County market leader was with him, and we drive to Lowell. I'm like, why are we driving to Lowell? What are we doing? And we stopped for lunch, And they said, probably wondering why we're doing it. I said, yeah. And they go, we would like you to move to our Lowell market. And Lowell market was newer at the time. We'd probably only been in that market 1 or 2 years, maybe.
Mm-hmm.
And they said, we would like you to come to Lowell and see if you could help build our name and our brand in Lowell. And I'm going, okay. This is May of 2008 recession, and I'm being tasked to help build a market in one of the worst economic times in American history.
Mm-hmm.
But I viewed that as, this is going to give me the opportunity to say, can I do this or not?
Mm-hmm.
And say, is this something that I can be successful at? And I have to stand on my own. I don't have anything to hide. I don't have anybody to hide behind.
It's all you.
It's all me. That's exactly right.
Right.
So, I worked really hard in that Lowell market to help build what I could during that time. At the time, we only had 3 lenders in Benton County.
Mm-hmm.
So we were trying to cover a whole market in a recession.
Mm-hmm.
And, I just had to go out and build relationships. And my dad is my best friend and my biggest role model in business and in life. My dad has taught me so many life stories and things that I have kept a list of.
Your ultimate mentor.
Absolutely. Still is to this day. He was in town. He and Mom were in town this week with some business stuff. And each night he and I go for a walk. I need to take the dog for a walk. So Dad and I would just go, and for 3 nights I got to just have some good talks with Dad.
That's wonderful.
And
what a blessing.
And one thing that Dad always taught me was, people have to trust you before they're going to do business with you.
100%.
It's not a sprint. It is a marathon, and you got to build those relationships. So when I was in the Lowell market, not the best economic time, obviously, not a lot of opportunities going on.
Right.
So I did spent a lot of time building relationships with a lot of people in that community. And as things improved economically, we were able to get some opportunities in that market and help grow that market. So that was a good challenge for me. To say, hey, can I do this?
Did you ever have? So let's speak to the realism of that, though. You can now say, I met the challenge, but were there some times that you were doubting or down, or so what's that feel like?
When I like to view myself as a pretty driven individual. You alluded to you worked with me early in my career at First Security, and is another one of Dad's sayings was, you need to be able to go home at night and say, did First Security get their money's worth out of me today? Did I give them all I had, and they got their money's worth out of me today? And there are times I would be frustrated, be like, I really wanted to do this, but it just didn't make sense. And maybe some opportunities pass us by, and so forth, or maybe opportunities that I just didn't get in front of the right people and didn't get. And sometimes I'm hard on myself about that kind of stuff and feel like I failed at something. Well, maybe I didn't, but I am I am hard on myself. And there's times I had to sort of just do some self-reflection. But at the same time, something really cool happened during that time when I was in our Lowell market that really sort of helped get me through. You mentioned that I had served as a board member of Bethany Christian Services. At the time that I was in our Lowell market, my wife and I, through some other things and that had happened and so forth, we adopted our son through Bethany as a newborn. So, recession, everything, and became a dad at the same time.
And just stack it on.
And that helped. but that really sort of helped with some of those struggles going on at that time that bring some real joy.
Yeah, absolutely.
And then, in only the ways that God can work, Matt Woolley. Then you say, people say, how do you know God's real? This is one of those ways I could only explain that this was a God thing. Is, we adopted our son as a newborn, got pregnant a month later, and our kids are 10 months apart.
That's awesome.
So, this all happened when I was in the Lowell market. And so that added a lot to building my career, becoming a dad at the same time.
How old were you at the time?
30. Let's see, my son turned 13 the other day, so I was 32 at the time. So I'd been first security for, that had been 2011. I'd been at first security for about right around 7 years then. At that point. So, a few months later, this would have been August of 2012. Me growing up in Bentonville, and as you know, in a lot of the banking business, it's a lot of personal relationships.
Absolutely.
It's a lot of, knowing people and so forth. I was asked if I would go to our Bentonville market.
Okay.
Go back to where, go back to where you grew up kind of situation. And so I was tasked with the same thing I was tasked with in Louisville, which was, hey, we need you to help grow this market. So in August of 2012, I went to our Bentonville market, and I've been there ever since.
Awesome.
And really just have become re-ingrained in that community. I love Bentonville. Even with a lot of the changes have all been good changes. It's like I say about anything, anytime you have progress like we have in our area, there's going to be some things that you maybe agree with, and there's some things you don't agree with. Everything that's going on here isn't for everybody.
Yeah.
But the great thing about our area is there is something for everybody.
Yeah, there is. There really is.
For you to get involved in, or for you to enjoy, recreationally or whatever. That's the beautiful thing about what's happened in our area is just there is something for everybody. I don't feel like there's anything that's just been like, oh, well, we're not going to worry about that. But it's been really neat, in my career and so forth, to watch Bentonville grow. And I feel like I've had a small part of that, helping finance things and so forth, to help business owners achieve their dreams in business in Bentonville and do projects that have been a part of that fabric of both Bentonville and all of Northwest Arkansas, just continuing to improve as a community.
I tell everybody all the time, and that's a wonderful point. I tell everybody all the time, there's a reason why it used to be a hidden secret. It used to be this thing that was just kind of like you either knew or didn't. Now word's gotten out. And there's a reason why Hollywood's coming here and wanting to film. There's a reason why, major players in industry are coming here and staying here. And I tell everybody that, tell me a place in such a small radius that, you could have three great universities. You got Tyson Foods, you've got Walmart, you've got J.V. Hunt, you got George's. I mean, and there's so many others that I'm missing in that. Cobb.
Simmons
Foods.
Yeah.
Siloam. I mean, it's crazy. And I tell everybody all the time too. It's like when all the other markets are doing like this, ours is just doing like this, and it's because there's just a lot of solid business here. But not just that, there's lots of amenities. Tell me a place that has all that you can also go to, see some of the fine arts that we have at Crystal Bridges, or see, entertainment at the Walmart Amp or JJ's Live or at Walton Arts Center. I mean, it's crazy. We have so much, but the beauty of it is, at least for now, is that it's still got that hometown community vibe to it. We're growing up a little bit, but that hometown community vibe still exists, and that's what I so desperately don't want to lose. And I think that a lot of the people that have been in this area for a while are trying to maintain that, and I think that's great. It's something for everybody.
You mentioned that. It made me start to think about, like I said, moving here in the late 80s. And to go anywhere to get, I'm giving my mom was used to shopping in New Orleans. During the summers, my mom and my sister and I remember this very clearly. We would drive over to New Orleans I think it was every Wednesday, just about during the summer, and meet Dad. Mom and my sister would go shop or whatever. My dad would take me out to lunch. And it's just things I remember. Yeah. But, you had everything you wanted right there.
Oh, yeah.
When I was growing up, when we moved here, you either had to go basically to Tulsa, Kansas City, or Little Rock to do any kind of decent shopping or decent entertainment and so forth. So to your point, to see this area grow with the entertainment options, the shopping options, the dining options, all those things right here in our backyard, everything's 30 minutes or less away.
Yeah.
and things that we used to have to travel hours to go do is literally right in our laps now.
Well, the mentality, at least with me, changed because I was the same way. Like, I grew up in southern Arkansas. If you wanted to do anything decent, you had to go to Little Rock, and that was not ragging on Little Rock. It's just the options are still limited in Little Rock. But coming here and seeing this place develop as it has, it's like, I'll just hang out in here. There's too much going on here. There's really not a need to want to go someplace unless for whatever reason, we both know we're music fans here, Donnie. So it's very rare that a musical act doesn't come through here that we don't want. They'll eventually come through here, but that's about the only reason I leave Northwest Arkansas, and I think that's great. I don't even go anywhere. Not a lot of road time. So let's switch gears a little bit. So, I think we try to bring value on this podcast and in hopes that, people that are listening can, I'm blessed so far to have so many interesting people on here. And I'm grateful that you're on here because you have an absolutely interesting background. But I try to pull expertise out of people. So that being said, everybody needs a banker. And I tell people, I tell people this all the time, but this recently came up on a podcast I was invited on, Big Talk about small business, and we got off into banking. And I said, one of my biggest pieces of advice was find a banker, especially an entrepreneur, early businesses, find a banker, and it's just like you said, establish a relationship, create an understanding, and, be very forthcoming with your banker. Let them know what's going on. You guys are here to help. Now, we're all in the business of making money, but communication is key. So if you had to offer any advice, and this is a very open-ended question, if you had to offer any advice to starting business or people that are getting their feet wet, or even people that are kind of a few years in, what's some just decent advice that you can offer to that business right now? Anything come to mind?
Yeah, there's going to be one thing I didn't get to mention earlier about my career, and you may not even have known this about me. I've known you for 20 years, Matt. So early in my career, and this is when I was late in my career at RVS in First Security, my dad and I actually owned a used car dealership together.
I did not know that.
Yeah, that's what that's. So
you know what it's like to be on the other side.
Yeah. Okay. So I did our book work.
Okay.
So we had somebody who ran it for us every day, and Dad and I did a lot of the management. Mm-hmm. And it taught me a lot about being a small business owner when I'm also trying to counsel and give financial advice. Mm-hmm. On the banking side, I was in their shoes at the same time. Mm-hmm. Like, I understood the kind of things they were going through, at that point. So, is to find a banker who you feel comfortable talking to, a banker that listens, and a banker that, has the right, skill set in order to understand what you're going through. Mm-hmm. And I know you're saying, well, how do you find that? And, how do you, and you just got to do it by meeting them, asking questions, finding out about your banker, finding out their background. You'll find out kind of things that they've been involved in and so forth in their lives to say, is this something that really matches up? Because you're right that, banking is a lot, is a lot about communication. It's about communication and transparency. We have a member of our senior management team that, we sort of laugh because he's got a saying, but it couldn't be more true, Matt. He says it's just people doing business with people. But you spend time, if you really think about that, that's the absolute truth. It's not people doing business with computers. It's not people doing business with paper. People have to do business with people in order to achieve things. And to find a good banker, it's someone that you feel comfortable with, that you trust. Again, going back to what I said earlier when I was in our local market, people have to trust you before they're going to do business with you. If you go in and just automatically, and I go and say, hey, Matt, I want to do X, Y, and Z business with Design Steins, and I want to do that, and you're going to say,
who's this guy?
Yeah, who are you? It's like, we got to build a relationship and build a trust level and get to know each other before you say, okay, I'm going to trust Donnie and First Security with my business because I truly believe that they understand me and are going to give me good, sound financial advice, even if it's not what you want to hear.
Well,
there's been a lot of times, Matt, where I've sat across from a customer and said, this is, even if it in the short term costs me a piece of business, and said, in the short term, this is not what you need to do. I don't mean to keep harping on lessons from Dad, but it's things that have stuck with me. Things that have really stuck with me. And one thing he said, is in the sales business, so Dad's worked on commission his whole life. And I've always sort of had that. And you know what a small business owner
is? It's every day.
That's all you do.
Every day.
But one thing that always has stuck with me is if you try to make your money in the short term, they won't carry over to the long term. They always said if you just take care of people's financial needs or whatever kind of needs they may have, if what works best for them and makes the most sense for them, you will make your money in that relationship in the long term. Because that person will stay with you and you'll have other opportunities with them. They will refer other business to you because of the way you were honest and handled things than trying to sell them something that wasn't for them because it was better for you. Think about the long-term relationship. Don't focus on that. Oh, I've got to make this sale now and do something. If it's not best for the customer, do what's best for the customer first. And sometimes they may not agree with you. And I've had to learn the word no. And I've been told no a lot in my life. And I've learned that it's not personal. They're not telling Donnie no. They're just telling the option no. And I've had to learn to not take those things personally.
That is a good point. To anybody out there that's in sales, you really do have to learn to get thick skin or separate yourself because sales is rejection 90% of the time. But to your point, and I'll give you, and I'll brag on you for a minute as well. You mentioned something earlier about having a banker that can offer advice, sound advice, and kind of been there, done that sort of thing. I think another piece of that is just being available, even if there's no immediate money behind it. So, for instance, there's been a few times in our existence as friends that I've said, hey, what do you think about this? And you've given good counsel on it, And in Design Stein's business, we tell people all the time, look, just pick up the phone and call and ask us questions. You don't have to worry about us billing you to try to help you. If we feel like we can direct you or just give you some wise counsel, we'll do that. And I think that availability is that availability and proving yourself to doing what's right for the customer is what earns that respect and that trust. Because I tell people all the time too, when they ask me about, I can't believe we're at the age where people ask us questions like this, but we're there. But I say it's all about your compass, because somebody with the wrong compass would say, I'm just going to go ahead and make that sale. I'm going to get that commission. I'm going to put that on the books. There are people out there, and there are bankers out there. There are sales guys out there for other companies that will not be customer-centric. They just see an opportunity to make the sale, and they're like, all right, well, we're just going to make the sale and call it good. But you have to ask yourself, and that again goes back to the compass that exists in you, what is right for them, what is going to help them succeed. And you're 120% correct that if you do something that's not in their best interest, it's going to come back on you. It is. It will, one way or the other. And, I think that's something that more people need to be aware of too. And especially I tell people all the time, there's 3 things that you don't mess with, and that's someone's kids, someone's food, and someone's money. And so, you're talking about creating relationships. You're talking about creating loyalty. And when times get tough, it's that loyalty on both sides that helps people to flourish. With you, I'm sure there have been people. Let's just be honest, Donnie. There's been people that's probably come to you, and quite honestly, the analytics say, I don't know. This isn't just chopping out like I'd really like it to. But you have a relationship with them, and so you say, you know what? This doesn't look like I think it needs to, but I think we can meet in the middle on this, and here's something we can do to help you move on this because I have faith in you. But you only get that if you have a relationship.
That's right.
So, let's shift real quick, if you don't mind. And sorry, I just kind of hijacked the conversation. Is there any other advice that you can think of that, off the top of your head? What happened? Here, let's go on this. Okay. Let's do this one. Let me direct this one. I am business owner, ABC. Mm-hmm. It's getting tough. Things aren't looking like I wanted them to. Things haven't gone to plan. What should I do? What kind of conversation should I have with my banker?
Just set up a time to get together and talk with them. And just lay it all out and say, okay, here are the challenges I'm facing. And be honest and be transparent. Mm-hmm. They want you to be that way. We can't help come up with solutions or a game plan if you're not telling us everything. Mm-hmm. Sometimes we feel like we're counselors. But we are. We're financial counselors. Mm-hmm. And you know what? Everything we do does not revolve around, we've got to make a sale. No, we've got to take care of people's financial well-being. So go to your bank and just, whoever your banker is, if you got the relationship that you hope that you should have, mm-hmm. as you're alluding to, Matt, and just be transparent. Just say, hey, I need to just talk about, here's what we've got going on. Mm-hmm. Need to pick your brain to say, hey, what kind of things can the bank do? Mm-hmm. There's some things the bank might be able to adjust in the short term to help us get through this. Mm-hmm. And here's how we're going to get through it. You need to have an action plan. Mm-hmm. If you have something you want the bank to consider, mm-hmm. you need to have an action plan of how you're going to achieve it. Mm-hmm. Not just come to the bank and say, hey, will you solve this problem for me? We can help you solve the problem. We're here to help you solve that problem. Yeah. But we don't have all the answers because you're the one running your business day to day. We see it every so often. We're not
in the weeds.
That's exactly. Right. So we need you to give us all the detail that we need to see, what your action steps are. And that's how we can sort of say, okay, hey, here's what we can do. Or, hey, have you thought about doing this in your business? Mm-hmm. One of the coolest things in my career, my 26-year banking career now, is how many different kinds of businesses I've gotten to deal with. Mm-hmm. I don't deal with just real estate all the time, or I don't just deal with just retail all the time, or vendors all the time. I have a gamut. I mean, I have, you name it, I've probably dealt with that industry before. So over the history is I've had a lot of experiences in different industries and so forth. And there's been times where I've been able to see those industries cross over. And maybe some of the principles or some of the things I've seen in one industry, I've been able to apply in another industry. Mm-hmm. Now, I can't give a specific example of that. I'd probably have to think about it for a while, but I know that I have definitely crossed industries before in knowledge base. Mm-hmm. And I've been able to apply that to be able to help a customer come up with an action plan, even in a difficult time. Mm-hmm. But, the bank, and this is other banks, not just First Security. I know other banks that operate this way. If you come and if you're honest with the bank of what's going on and how you're trying to work through it stuff, the bank is going to do whatever they can.
They don't want to see you fail.
That's exactly right. We don't want to see you fail. We want to see you be successful. And we understand there's going to be some bumps in the road. It's going to happen. Mm-hmm. But if you're not telling us the whole story, we can't help you fit the pieces of the puzzle together right to get you going the right direction over time.
And by not telling the full story, if things even sour further and you find out there's a hidden component, you've basically lost your trust.
That's exactly right.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and like I said earlier, you know, you have to trust people. People have to trust you to visit with you.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you don't want the bank to lose trust in you.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and it's best to just be, you know, I go back to, you know, a lot of biblical principles, being a Christian and being a follower of Jesus, of, you know, holding true to what a lot of the scriptures say about how you should treat people.
Mm-hmm.
You know, treat people the way you'd want to be treated.
Mm-hmm.
Think about if you were the business, you know, as a banker. What if you were on this other side of the conversation and you were the business owner having to talk to the bank?
Mm-hmm.
You know, put yourselves in that shoe. Don't just keep yourselves in your own shoes.
Mm-hmm.
Try to put yourself in their shoes to help understand where they might be coming from.
Mm-hmm.
You know, be relatable. You know, be there for people.
Mm-hmm.
So,
how has your faith directed your life?
it directs every day of my life.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I really try to say, you know, how would Jesus want me to handle this situation? And I'd spend a lot of time praying about, Lord, provide me a peace about a situation, or Lord, just pray, Lord, that you will just provide me with, give me ideas.
Mm-hmm.
You know, there's times I get up pretty early in the morning. I'm one of these kind of people that I have to be going for a little while before I can go to work.
What's pretty early?
About 5 a.m.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and I'm usually in the office about 7:15, 7:30.
Mm-hmm.
Get the kids and my wife off to school. She's a school teacher, and both kids. So I get everybody off and then get in. But I do some of my best thinking and praying about things between about 5 and 6 in the morning.
Mm-hmm.
And some of the ideas and so forth that come in my mind of maybe how to handle something or an approach to take. It's amazing. Some of my best thoughts happen before I even get to the office.
It's awesome.
But I definitely spend a lot of time just asking the Lord to guide and direct me in what decisions I make and help me help some of these decisions, help the decisions be His decisions, not mine.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I spend a lot of time of, Lord, allow your will to be done, not my own. Because if I try to do my will, it's probably not going to work out real well. So my faith completely shapes, who I am.
Mm-hmm. How's your faith helped you, with your family?
Tremendously. You know, we all know, hey, you've got kids, I've got kids. Parenting's hard.
Mm-hmm. And
parenting and juggling, juggling your parenting, your marriage, and your career. It's tough.
Yeah,
it really is, and it's just figuring out how to handle those things. Yeah, we're very blessed and very fortunate to have an amazing church family where we go to church. That's just got a lot of great resources and just a lot of great teaching that really helps equip us from all angles. And we're very grateful for that.
That's awesome. Where do you go to church?
First Baptist Rockers.
All right, Church Clyde. Yeah, I've heard great things. I know a lot of great guys that go there.
Yes.
So something must be going on.
It very much is. Very much is.
Awesome. Okay, so let me ask you this. What advice, if you could offer, and this is, I do a lot of open-ended questions here, to a young person that's starting their career, whatever that career may be, what's Donnie's advice to them?
I still live by this adage that Dad has always told me. Number one, you should learn something new every day. Even if it's not something big, you should learn something new every day. And that's something I've always stuck to.
That's awesome.
Another thing is, and I learned this young, is that this has to do with personal appearance. I know this may sound a little silly, but dress for the job you want. If you want to be a bank president someday, look at who those people are. How do they conduct themselves? How do they conduct themselves? How do they act? How do they, their attire? How do they present themselves? Spend more time observing and listening than you do talking. And you're looking at a guy who talks a lot.
I understand. I completely understand.
I'm a social person. I love getting to know people. But you can't get to know people unless you listen. You can't talk and learn anything about anybody. You got to listen to people and understand.
Shout out real quick to Patrick Sparrow, who given us one of our quirkisms at work. It's our culture code. Be interested, not interesting.
Yes. Great advice right there.
Yeah.
And going back to the career thing is, you don't know everything off the bat. Unfortunately, I see a lot of young people that come in and think they just know everything. Be humble. Be very humble in what you're doing, and listen and learn from those who've been doing it a long time, and find some mentors. Whether I've had situations in my career where there are people that didn't even know they were mentoring me, and they were mentoring me just by me talking to them, asking them questions, or even in meetings, listening to the questions they ask, listen to the way they talk to other people, so forth. Just be a sponge to all those things, and find the things you want to emulate and you don't want to. Now, you're going to see the good and the bad, the pros and the cons, but really find people that are successful, that you feel like have been successful in the right ways, and really pay attention to how they handle themselves.
That's great advice. And it also alludes to watching your tongue, because that's one thing that I have to really watch myself for. My greatest asset is my greatest enemy, and it's the things that you say on a daily basis. You just don't know who's listening to you. The Lord's listening to you. That's one to put a red flag up.
Yep.
But I feel the same way. I can't tell you how many people in my life I've come across that had no clue the impression they were leaving on me. But I'm so grateful for them, and that's what you're talking about. That's great advice. Great advice. Okay, last question of the day, Donnie Baker. What gives Donnie joy?
First, my relationship with Jesus. He is my joy. I can't imagine my life without him. And anybody who's listening to this, if you don't know anything about Jesus, talk to somebody who does, because that is where my greatest joy comes in.
Amen.
My next greatest joy comes from my family. I've been blessed to be married for 20 years. As I said, I got married and started my career at the same time, and I make the joke to my wife that every wedding anniversary, I always say it's the whatever year anniversary of her lifelong charity case. I definitely married up. My wife is a tremendous godly woman who has just been by my side through the ups and the downs of my career and life, and she and I have had some ups and downs in our lives, and my family brings me joy. My wife brings me joy. My two kids definitely bring me joy. People don't understand about kids until you've had them.
Oh yeah.
And
you don't know until you join the club.
That's exactly right. And both of my kids, they both are just uniquely talented in different ways. And I'm proud of both of them. And I'm proud of the people, the kids and the adults they'll eventually become. They're younger right now, but it's been really neat to watch them grow and to find the things that they find joy in, and to get to experience those things with them. So one thing about my kids. So there's two things that some people do know about me, and I know there's one thing a lot of people probably don't know. One, that a lot of people usually know is I am pretty much a baseball junkie. I love all things baseball. My whole life it has been my favorite sport. And my son plays, and my daughter plays fast pitch softball.
Awesome.
And it brings me a lot of joy to see them enjoy the things that I enjoyed, because they want to, not because Dad wanted them to.
Yeah,
it's things that they found joy in.
Common ground.
Absolutely. And then the other thing is, I think that people that don't know about me is, the kind of music I like to listen to.
I do.
Yes, you do. That's a lot of people don't peg me to listen to the kind of music I listen to.
Yeah.
But my son has found a little bit of enjoyment.
That's great, isn't it, too?
It is, and I know you and your son,
yeah,
really enjoy that together. And as my son gets older, again, being able to take him to some concerts and stuff, I think that's going to be something as he gets older that we're going to have fun doing together. My daughter loves music too.
That's great.
My wife has a beautiful voice. My wife's a wonderful singer.
Yeah, that sounds fun.
To tell a real quick funny story. It's a joke between my mother-in-law and my wife and I. Is that I like you play guitar, don't play as much as I used to.
Yeah.
But it's something I'd always enjoyed, and Amy had always said that she had always prayed for someone who could sing and play an instrument. And as Amy's mom says, she goes, "Well, honey, you didn't pray for that they could sing well." So that's always been just a fun family story for 20 years now. But but my kids enjoy music just like I do, and
that's great.
So between my faith and my family, that's what I find a lot of joy in. And then the last thing I find joy in is in my job, two things. Mm-hmm. One is being able to mentor some of our younger lenders in some of the experiences I've had and help them be better. The best part of my job is being able to pour into others.
That's great.
I love doing that. Mm-hmm. I love being there for our other team members at any time they need to talk through something or whatever. I love doing that. Mm-hmm. I love just being able to make people better, hopefully, through my experiences. So that has been that's been a big thing. And the other piece of that is seeing business owners be successful. There's nothing a business owner loves more than talking about their business. And for that to have even a little piece of someone's success in their business brings me joy, because I've been a small business owner, and I know somewhat what it's like to be in their shoes. Mm-hmm. But to have a little piece of that pie to be a part of someone's success brings me a lot of joy as well. And that's one thing that motivates me, keeps me going every day, is being there to help people. I know I've got a meeting with somebody this afternoon, and they just it's a customer, and they try to figure out which direction to go on some things. And they said, "I just want to sit down for 30 minutes or so and just talk out loud." I said, "That's what I like. One thing I love to do." And we're just going to sit down this afternoon. We're just going to talk out loud about the pros and the cons of what they're looking at doing. Mm-hmm. And we'll go from there.
That's awesome. Donnie, I couldn't think of a better way to end this, but I really appreciate you coming on. I've had such a great time.
Thanks, man. Thanks for having me. Really enjoyed it.
You'll come back again?
Absolutely.
All right. Thanks, Donnie.
Thanks.